also known as Brett, and this is the next episode of the ODDsmen broadcast. With me today, as always, we have...
Hey guys, this is DPO427, Daniel, on Reddit.
And unfortunately, Doom is unable to join us today. However, we have a special guest.
Hello guys, this is Joker here, Community Center moderator.
And we got a lot planned for you, so let's go ahead and dive right in. DP, take it away from here for now, and then we'll get back to the new characters.
All right, so just a reminder for you guys. Currently, we're still at the $23 out of $30 goal on Patreon, so we're just $7 short of that goal. And if we could achieve that by the end of this month, we'll add $10 on top of the $5 giveaway from last month. So we'll be giving away $15 this month if we could achieve that. Otherwise, we'll be giving away $10 guaranteed when our next podcast goes live near the end of this month. So if you guys haven't already, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/theoddsmen.
Here comes a new challenger!
All right, so our newest challenger, we have Two-Face, the Duke of Duality. And his kit, I have to say, it's very entertaining, very flavorful when you start reading what it does and reading how it interacts with itself. You basically have a 50-50 shot to do one of two things, and you have a 50-50 shot for the legendary effect half the time. It's really interesting to see. There's a lot of 50-50s, so and it's interesting because when you start the match, it seems like the indicator is random as to whether he's Harvey or whether he's Two-Face. But there is a little visual indicator. If it's blue, he's Harvey. If it's purple, he's Two-Face. So, and this is very important to make note of as you go through the rest of his kit, because it has varying effects based on which version he is at the time. Let's go ahead and dive right into those real quick. I don't have anything in front of me, so I'm doing this off the top of my head. DP, if you can fill in the gaps for me. All right, so his first one is Twin Pistols, his basic attack. You're going to fire 2 light damage shots at your opponent, and it has, if you're Harvey, it's going to apply a crit immunity to one of your allies, and if he's Two-Face, it's going to apply, is it 2 hit chance downs? I think, to the enemy.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up right now. 2 evasion down, and so 2 crit immunity and evasion down. So those, sorry.
Okay, so evasion down, not hit chance down. My bad.
Are we talking about the Two-Face?
That's
mode,
right. It's mostly evasion downs. Yeah, if he's Two-Face, it'll be evasion down. If he's Harvey, it'll be a crit immunity to one of your allies.
Yeah.
The legendary upgrade for this allows you a 50% chance to fire 2 additional shots at a random opponent. So I think that's actually a really interesting upgrade. Definitely fits the character. Then you move into his secondary move, a coin toss. You're going to flip the coin. 50 chance you're going to come up Harvey. 50% chance you're going to come up Two-Face. If you come up Harvey, you're going to give your allies a bunch of hit chance up. If it comes up Two-Face, you're going to give your enemies a bunch of evasion downs. So that's pretty much what it is. It's basically your method of switching between his 2 personas if you're not happy with the one that he currently has. And it's a 50-50 either way. So it doesn't matter what you started as. It just, you have a 50% chance to be one or the other.
Actually, just to correct you, the Harvey mode, it's hit chance up and crit chance up. So you get 2 different buffs. And then for the...
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
And the Two-Face mode, it's not evasion downs, actually. It's hit chance down and crit chance down.
Let's see. Okay, now I'm getting confused because I knew there was hit chance down in there somewhere.
You just mixed up the 2 abilities. You mixed up 1 and 2. You mixed up the first 2 abilities. So the second part, the evasion down is the first ability of the Two-Face mode. Sorry, the Two-Face mode of the first ability is evasion down. The Two-Face mode of the second ability is hit chance down and crit chance down. Cool.
Okay.
All right. it's hard because
point is it's a lot of debuffs.
He's got a lot.
It's going to take a while to memorize this guy's kit.
Yeah, no, like, to be fair, I think you're going to pretty much want to get him to one specific mode and just keep him as that for pretty much most of the match. At least that's how I kind of feel about it. Depending on what you need in the particular event you're in, whether you want Harvey or whether you want Two-Face, is really where you're going to set him to, and then you're not going to switch after that. So
I definitely agree with you on that.
So, And then the legendary upgrade for this is a 50% chance to call an assist. This definitely seems like a worthwhile upgrade. Even if it is only 50%, it still gives you that extra attack, from somebody else. So it doesn't necessarily waste the turn all the time. So it definitely feels like it helps.
So
I haven't actually taken the upgrade yet, so
just to be
That's
clear
the first one I picked.
Yeah, just to be clear on the call assist now, because the original move itself doesn't actually target any enemy, it's a random attack, I guess, right?
yes, it should be.
Okay.
Joker, can you confirm that?
Yeah, because you're clicking on Harvey himself when you're doing the switch, so it's random who he's going after.
Okay.
So it's basically the same thing as Atrocitus's AoE.
Cool. Okay.
Right.
Cool. All right.
All right, and then we have his third move. It was the third movie in the Batman series, by the way, that he appeared in. But we have Justice for All. I do love the naming convention on his kit. It's very, very thematic and very flavorful. Justice for All. It's his AoE, light damage to the enemy team. If he's... is there extra effects on this one? It's like damage, extra damage if he's Two-Face, and then if he's Harvey, it's like a couple of buffs for your team.
Purge.
Is that right?
You get to purge. You purge.
Oh,
debuffs.
that's right. It's the Purge. That's right.
You purge debuffs off the team, and then you get 30% more damage on Two-Face. So that's not bad. And just to note, a fully upgraded light damage becomes damage, so it actually scales up enough.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then the legendary upgrade, I forget what it's called, but it's plus 50% crit chance and plus 50% crit damage. So lots of chance and lots of damage, which plays into his kit a little bit later on, but I definitely like that it's a flat 50-50 for both, and it doesn't matter which form you're in for that bonus. So very, very high chance that this AoE is going to crit and do a ton of damage.
Yep.
All right, and then we have his first passive, which to me, this is the reason that you play him in the first place, is this first passive. This is just me, but at full upgrade, it has a 50% chance. If he's Harvey, it's going to give your team hit chance ups. If he's Two-Face, it's going to give your enemy team evasion down. Both of them have a 50% chance, so you always have a 50-50 shot of granting the bonus, whichever one it happens to be. And then the legendary upgrade for this one is also reduce the cooldown of Justice for All by 1. And I believe it's on a 50% chance on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of his upgrades are 50.
Yeah, they're no more than 50, which makes complete sense for him.
Well, no, actually, I take that back. Is this one? It does have a percentage tied to it as the legendary upgrade?
Yeah, 50%.
Or does it just automatically reduce the cooldown?
No,
if it triggers.
It's a 50-50 chance to reduce cooldown.
So it's an additional 50% chance? I forget the wording on it, but I wanted to say...
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah,
I was going to say...
The original base move doesn't have the cooldown on it.
Right. No, yeah. So it's a 50% chance in the base, but the legendary upgrade doesn't have a chance. It just, if the base move triggers, it reduces the cooldown, right?
Wait, what are we talking about? We're talking about the passive, right?
Yeah, the first passive.
For the cooldown of
legendary
one.
upgrade specifically. Does it have the 50% chance also?
Oh, in the base? No, it doesn't. So basically...
No, the base has two 50% chances in the base.
I believe the legendary upgrade is 50% chance to add -1 on the cooldown.
It is? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so technically it's a 1/4 cooldown. That's what I was trying to figure out, because for whatever reason I was originally thinking that it was a 50% chance to reduce the cooldown also, but it's actually a 1/4 chance. Is that right?
Yeah, you take all those percentages in, it sounds like a quarter.
Well, I couldn't remember if the percentage chance was there on that one. That's why I was asking what the actual wording of it is.
Okay, I'm gonna read out the wording of it. Okay, so good fortune. It says at the beginning of his turn, if Harvey, 50% chance to apply 2 hit chance ups to all allies. If Two-Face, 50% chance to apply 2 evasion downs to all enemies. So that's the base move. Okay.
Right, base move has 50% chance.
And then legendary, 50% chance to reduce Justice for All's cooldown by 1. That's it.
Okay, so yes, it does sound like it's a 1/4 chance to reduce that cooldown.
Yeah.
basically.
Well, no. I mean, it's at the beginning of his turn.
You have to,
He has a.
or is it okay? So we need to test this one because it might actually be two separate triggers.
I think you're reading into it
because it doesn't say if the passive is triggered. It just says 50% chance to reduce cooldown on one.
I think you're reading into it too much. I think it has 3 different modes. Think about it as
that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking they're 2 separate triggers.
Well, that's the thing. So, regardless if you're Harvey or Two-Face, the legendary will happen. It'll be either
right.
It'll give.
But my question about it, my question about the legendary is whether or not you have to proc the other one to get it.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't. I think they're all separate instances from the way it's worded. Right.
Okay. So we will definitely need to test that at some point. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I could definitely see confusion there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's definitely a little bit confusing. So
it's like
sorry for wasting a lot of time on this one.
No, I know.
That's why I saved it for last.
All right, let's just wrap up the kit.
Well, I really like the upgrade personally, but that's neither here nor there. But his final move is Tough Luck, and oh shoot, I blanked on this one. It's 50% chance if he lands a crit while Two-Face to reduce the turn meter by 25%.
It's an ally when an ally deals crit damage.
Oh yeah, when any ally lands a crit. Okay. And then if he's Harvey, it's a chance to purge debuffs.
Yeah, to purge debuffs is right.
It's like 3?
5 maxed out.
5, okay.
Yeah, but if Two-Face, you get turn meter down on the target. So 25% turn meter down.
Right, and then the legendary is a 50% chance to double the effect, whether it's the purge or the meter down.
That's right.
So it's a 1/4 chance to do double effect on that one is the way I'm wording it, because this one actually says you have to trigger it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so because you're doubling it.
Right.
So this one is a 1/4.
Yeah, or purge up to 10.
Yeah.
Right, purge up to 10 or up to 50% meter down if you crit.
Right.
That's insane. But I think the fact that it goes down to a 1/4 is where you kind of. Well, is it really that amazing?
This is obviously dependent on the other ones because it has to be based off of whether or not it triggers, right? So.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. This one is very clear.
Yeah.
That it has to trigger the other ones in order to even get this chance. But the other one is not so much.
I think that even though it is a bit of a 1/4 chance, it's still crazy. Like if it happens, like taking half meter off someone is ridiculous.
Oh no, absolutely. Red Hood has already proven to us that 50% meter is insane.
Yeah.
Joker, what do you think about Two-Face Harvey?
Not really sure yet. I definitely want to play him quite a bit and get the hang of his kit. I like the role reversal in there. I could see how it's beneficial going in with the current meta. You're definitely going to want to be Two-Face because you don't want to have any of those buffs going on your team. So having all the debuffs going on the opposing team is definitely a better trade-off. And just walking in, to September and looking at the new characters, my first concern always looking at the new characters when you have a meta going on is how do they benefit the meta as opposed to going against it. And I could see him in there with a Atrocitus team and Wonder Girl alongside of him, causing quite a few problems, especially if you upgrade that his basic, Atrocitus comes in, you get the enrage attack going on. Two-Face gets his basic, and then he gets 2 extra attacks potentially from that. It can be pretty harsh.
Yeah, the way that the one's legendary upgrade is worded, I could see it being 2 separate random individual attacks, or just a second animation of his double shot.
Right.
I have a feeling that it's kind of like the Red Hood style of attack, where he's doing multiple attacks, right? But
well, that is what it is from when I played with him just briefly.
Okay.
But I was saying the legendary for it.
Mm-hmm.
Could those 2 light attacks go to 2 separate targets, or is it just a second animation of his first on one target?
I'd imagine.
I think it's going to work like damaged goods when he does his shot, the machine gun, and then there's a little overspray on hitting some characters around them.
Okay, so it might be random then.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay. Okay, cool.
DP, what do you think of him, real quick?
Well, Two-Face, to me, the neat thing about him is that he kind of plays like a red Hippolyta, from what I see. Like, basically, he can either be really offensive or really defensive based on which mode he's in. So, for that, like, depending on how the flow of the game is going and also what mode you start off with, if it actually is random, then it gives you more reason to use his second ability, right? If it isn't random, you can kind of control it. So I think one of the Reddit users, someone on Reddit was saying that his mode may persist between one battle to the next. So, for example, if you finished a battle as Two-Face, and you start another battle, like in PvP or somewhere, with him, he'll start as Two-Face instead of Harvey. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's what
that was something that I actually considered as well.
Yeah.
But I chalked it up to more just
It's
confirmation bias more than actual confirmation.
Yeah.
Because I only did a couple of matches, it's really hard to tell, did it actually
what you got to do is
transfer?
What you got to do to actually test it is basically, once you're in Two-Face mode, for example, never use the second ability, keep playing as Two-Face, and then just keep seeing if every battle you start off, you're always Two-Face, right? Then do the same thing. Let's do
that's something I was going to do today, but I ended up having to charge my phone, so I didn't get a chance to.
All right, but I mean,
wouldn't that concept apply into campaign mode as well? You just go through multiple campaign nodes real fast and see where he's at.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do.
All right. Well, that's our side project to confirm on Reddit. But let's say that is the case, right? So if that's the case, it actually gives you less incentive to use his second ability because you can kind of control it given certain things, right? So let's say you want to start off PvP battle and you want to go into it as Two-Face. So go jump into a PvE battle real quick, end on Two-Face, and then go back into that PvP battle, right? You know what I mean? So that way you don't have to waste turns using the second move to switch. Unless that's beneficial for you, like to get the call assist or whatever it is, right? So the way he plays, should that be the case, becomes sort of like in line with Hippolyta, because then you can actually have more control over it, right? But I'm imagining that it isn't the case. I hope it actually isn't the case, to make him more random, to make him more 50-50 on everything. Because
I'm kind of hoping it is the 50-50 too.
Yeah. Because I think...
Yeah, I'm on board with that as well.
Yeah. And we're probably sort of in this minority of players where we're probably playing into sort of the flavor aspect of the character, where we want him to be sort of this random 50-50 character, because that's who he is, right? But there are players, let's call it the quote unquote tryhards out there who want a character, right? Who want a character that they can rely on to do what they want him to do and not have to worry on variance, right? Because if they get sort of variance, they're going to complain about RNG and how this would have been different if this had happened. Mm-hmm. But then, you're not going to pick up a character that's 50-50 all over the place in his kit if that's the way you're going to play. So that's neither here nor there.
Well, I mean, just something that I want to point out. I mean, this is something I had a conversation with Kage briefly earlier about it too. And it's like when the dev team is designing characters, they cannot just design characters for PvP and the tryhards. Mm-hmm. They have to make it fun for those of us who are lore gurus who want to have the characters be accurate. You have to make it fun for everybody. It can't just be one or the other. It has to be fun for both sides.
Speaking along those lines, I would have been happy if he had a chance of attacking one of his own. Some mega...
That would have been hilarious.
Yeah. Some huge hit that, you got the 50-50 chance that he could one-shot a green.
I actually think it would have been really cool if, instead of attacking one of your own per se, his animation fizzled and the animation was actually just him shooting a minion.
Oops. Yeah.
He just flips the coin, gets pissed, turns to the guy next to him, and just.
Yeah. I haven't actually played with him yet. I'm currently in the process of gearing him up, but I haven't actually played him yet. And in the what do you call it? The challenge that's currently going on for him, I've seen a lot of Riddler, but I actually haven't seen him that much, and I hadn't paid attention when he was on screen. Is there coin flipping in his animation yet? Have you actually seen
the standstill idle animation?
Yeah, I haven't actually looked at it.
The idle animation, no.
Boo.
When he uses his 2, it does flip the coin.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess there's that. That was the one thing I was hoping for, but it didn't happen.
Well, his idle animation, he's holding two pistols. I mean,
yeah, but I'm saying he could have them both in one hand.
no.
Anyways,
but anyway, real quick before we move on to World's Greatest Detective, thoughts, initial thoughts on importance in the legendary ordering. So, me personally, I really like the way his kit's designed, and I'm kind of leaning toward his primary, his basic attack, and his AoE being your first two, but I also value his coin flipping for that call assist fairly high, so any of those three, I don't think you're really going to go wrong as your first couple of upgrades. I don't feel that his two passives are quite reliable or strong enough in their own right to justify an early point. I think those need to be, L3, L4 range more than the others. I don't know. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. With the call assist on I chose two first. Just because I don't want that to be a wasted move, and having a call assist in there, definitely gives it a perk. One would come up after that, and 3 and 5, I'm undecided on. It depends on how much damage he really puts out. I've seen a lot of characters that do have a call assist, and their damage is nothing. And
well, here's the thing about his crit. He has a support gear set.
Mm-hmm.
So he should have a really high crit damage, and not so high crit chance.
Right.
Compare him with Deadshot Hired Gun, basically.
Well, no, I'm just pointing out that the value of his 3 is actually pretty good when you add 50% crit chance.
Right, but I'm saying if you pair him with a guaranteed crit character like Deadshot Hired Gun, his damage should be insane then, right?
In theory, yeah, it could be pretty dang high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that with Black Adam, and it didn't work out so well.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, all right.
Not everybody pans out the way we want them to, unfortunately, but this is the theory right now, so...
Yeah, like on paper...
But,
sorry, what you were saying, Joker?
I was going to say, but I intend on taking him to L5 anyway. I do that with all the villains, so... I guess my order is not all that important, but
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, no, but it's more discussion for those people who are only going to be able to get L2, L3, L4.
Yeah.
What do you think are what do you want at those ranks? Do you think?
Right. Oh, like I said, I got my order as 2, 1, 3, 5, and 4, and 3 and 5 are debatable depending on where his damage is at and which one I think is going to outweigh the other while I'm playing him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at the same. Basically, like, I think 4 should be last, based on, like, overall cooldown effects aren't that great unless you're expecting, like, matches to go really long, right? So getting more use out of his 3 will be more important, but it also depends on, like, how reliably you can get those 50-50 things to happen, and because it's 50-50, you can't rely on it, right? So,
right.
Yeah, so for me, the things that look more interesting are things you can kind of guarantee on using more often, or for example the coin flip call assist is probably the most important. I would say for me it would be 2, 1, and then based on what his damage output is like for 3, probably either 3 and then 5, or 5, either 3 or 5 and then 4 after. So
you're on board with Joker at this point. It's same basic,
Yeah.
Okay, so I know Doom originally had thought that his 5 was going to be more important. I'll let Doom explain that sometime when he decides to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we all kind of agree here that it's maybe not quite as strong as he initially thought it was. But
he and
it's still yet to be seen. So
he and I got into a little talk about it, and he was saying how that basically the stasis idea of it works out. Kid Flash, Mirror Master concept. Just slow down and freeze up the other team and pick them off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Doom is kind of a fan of those stun lock teams, so yeah, I can't really fault him for wanting to take that first. So
no, definitely not. It's just it could definitely work. If you get that, I guess 25% chance of it hitting.
Right, and then you also have to remember that you have to crit to trigger it,
Exactly.
so you have a percent chance there. So that 25% chance is actually a lot lower than it looks like.
Oh, I toned it down from the 50 to 25 already, so.
Yes.
No, I know, but I'm just saying there's the 50% chance for Two-Face to trigger the ability, and then there's the 50% chance to double. But in order to even get that to trigger, you have to have the 42% chance of a striker to actually crit. So unless you're really building a lot of crit chance ups, you can't rely on that skill. That's definitely what I was trying to go for there.
All right, yeah, you definitely went deeper with it than I did.
Right.
Yeah, so the chances go much lower. But moving on.
Yeah, we got.
We're gonna do a little nip tuck next.
You got a little more work done, huh? Yeah, just a little bit, just tweaking, maintenance.
All right, so our nip tuck choice for selection for today is Batman, the world's greatest detective, and I think that title is very aptly fitting at this point. He definitely feels great again. I don't know about you guys. I definitely think he feels great again. Not that he ever felt bad, but he definitely feels a lot stronger now. So not a whole lot of his kit changed, but the things that did change are important.
Hashtag
his basic yeah. Hashtag make Batman great again.
that was definitely running through my head too.
I think that was kind of the point, right? But and like I said, I never really felt like he was in desperate need, but everybody kind of knew that certain parts of his kit were just not quite par anymore. So and the things that did change, again, like I said, were very impactful. His basic attack remains basically the same as it was previously. I think they might have added one more debuff purge, or one more buff purge, rather, between the basic attack and
I think it's
the legendary.
I think it hasn't been touched.
Hasn't been touched at all?
Yeah.
I thought there was one additional one somewhere, maybe.
Could be.
I think the basic used to be up to 2, now it's 2 to 3.
Oh, okay.
I think. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But that one's not really that important.
Yeah.
Unless you're using Silver Banshee, and then it's awesome. Hey, Silver Banshee is pretty cool. That's sidetracking to the here nor there. But anyway, the absolute reason to take the Batman is his detective work. It always has been, it always will be, and it continues to be. You take him to use his detective work. It has now been changed to, instead of offering 4 affinity up, you now get 2 affinity up and True Sight for 1 turn to your team. That is absolutely insane. Lets you do exactly what you need to do with your team. I need to stun this character, but they're hiding behind a taunt. Let me go do that real quick. You know, whatever you need to do, you do it, you get it done. It feels amazing to get around anything that you need to get around, whether it's invisibility or taunting or whatever. So that's really cool. And then the legendary for this remains the same. Reduce the cooldown of everything by 1. Still phenomenal. So his 3 is now an overheal. His synthesized cure is now an overheal. It feels like it's a little bit stronger. Still purges a ton of debuffs. Still grants up to 100% turn meter to the character he uses on, as long as it's not himself. His explosive batarangs, I only change there was, instead of purging extra buffs if they're invisible, now it purges all buffs if they're invisible.
Which is sick.
So that got a really powerful upgrade. Really powerful upgrade there.
Yeah.
And then his leadership is now a 50% chance to purge a buff. If they purge a buff, get 2 affinity ups. And then the legendary upgrade for that is now, if they trigger that, there's a 50% chance to gain an awareness as well. So the 2 things people wanted to see in his kit, True Sight and awareness, they're there now. I'm absolutely ecstatic for his changes. So, and then obviously there was some stat changes that went with him, but those weren't really terribly important. The 2 things that kept the kit, or that made the kit good originally, are still there. So happy about that. What do you guys think? Joker, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that he's got a lot of tools right now to help him, or the teams that you put with him, go up against Constantine comps, or even with the Wonder Girl comps, and that definitely adds value to him. I still think he's really squishy, though. Whenever I face him in PvP, he just, I honestly kind of ignore him. I'll save him for last, or he'll just get
That's
squashed.
fair.
Or he'll just get squashed from AoE damage from my other guys, you know? He's definitely had some good improvements. You know, Black Kryptonian, who I work with in the modding, he's ecstatic with the changes, and he's been crying for a rework to this character for a long time, so I'm happy for him.
Nice.
Me personally, when I look at his kit, I was a bit underwhelmed when I first looked at it, but then now that I look at it, the reason why you use him and why you used him before hasn't really changed, and it just brings more utility to the table. And like for all of those who are skeptic about him, he's not the type of character that's going to sort of make or break your match. He's not a very good defensive character, like Joker was saying, but offensively, he's an enabler. He's sort of like because of his cooldown reduction on his second ability, he's sort of a combo enabler, especially with characters that have very low cooldown moves that are like a 2-turn cooldown. So like, for example...
Or 1-turn cooldown, like Ivy and her taunt, or Chemo and his...
Right. So you can use them back to back if you pair them with World's Greatest Detective, so he's definitely a huge enabler there. The fact that he has Overheal now in his kit, it also enables a different type of strategy, like that, like for example, characters like Bane, Etrigan, and so on and so forth, right? Then
Enchantress.
Right. The other thing that I found neat about his kit, that the legendary upgrade to his explosive batarangs, the fact that it just completely hoses Clayface teams and, ironically, all the Robins. So,
Imagine that.
Go figure, Batman just rips apart all the Robins.
Well, I could make a really dirty joke right now about Robin and Batman, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it through my going through my head. Does he actually affect Red Hood? And I remember, yeah, Red Hood actually does have invisibility in his kit. So, yeah.
He does with a legendary upgrade, yeah.
Right. So my claim there is still valid. But anyways, like his did we mention the fact that his precision strike upgrade gives awareness too?
Yes, I did.
That? Yeah. Yep. That's actually quite interesting because it's another instance of having awareness on a character now. So that's neat.
As a team leader ability, there's only one other one, and that's Martian Manhunter. So.
Yep. So it is neat. It is neat. The fact that you can kind of play him defensively, but not really. I mean, it's also a 50% chance to get that if they. So no, first they actually have to purge, right? And then it's a 50% chance to get the awareness. 50% chance. So it's pretty awkward.
And it's not just purge; it has to actually trigger his leadership. So if the move purges, it doesn't necessarily trigger his leadership.
Right.
So just keep that in mind.
Right. So, anyways, it's a bit awkward, but it's still pretty good, I think. So it gives you the ability to pseudo protect your team.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And then as far as legendary order, I don't think it really changed all that much. You take 2, you take 3, and then after that, you kind of take whatever you want, depending on how you're planning on running him. So, or what you're having, trouble with, depending. So, because he's a very versatile character, but you definitely want that 2 upgrade for that cooldown reduction, and then you want that turn meter granting from the heal as well. After that, you're kind of up to you. So,
yeah, I'd say he's definitely L5 material. I L5 everything, but his whole kit is definitely worth it.
Yeah, it definitely got a lot better than it was. It looks really good now. So,
we're gonna get into the arena then.
All right. First thing we got is there was a last-minute switch to Riddler instead of Constantine for the PvP Wraith Arena rewards.
Yeah,
I think this was. Go ahead.
Sorry, that just made sense. That's all.
The way the siege ended things last month, and Larfleeze is getting a week this month at the end of the month. I think it was actually set up this way. Mm-hmm. With intent, that Riddler would have a week next month.
Yeah.
And I think that's the new way they
It
want to
definitely
take
felt
things.
like there was supposed to be another siege.
Yeah.
It definitely felt like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, on this point, I think that, like, I think it mainly came up because a lot of people were seeing that Riddler was an expected Alliance character for, like, somewhere in the middle of September. And people were saying, well, how are we going to access Riddler unless we're going to buy, his pack that comes out later in the month? So, there was no access to him otherwise. So then they made the switch there. Otherwise, the other thing they could have done was switch out Riddler week to Constantine week or something like that, like they did for Red Hood. Sorry, not Red Hood, Red Robin.
Yeah, and
So it was either one or the other, right?
I think that we're gonna have these little hiccups and growing pains for until they figure out, how exactly to run Siege, how exactly they're to run all the PvP tournaments congruently. Until they can figure out how to do Siege, Blitz, Showdown, and regular Wraith Arena all at the same time and have a nice continuous schedule, we're gonna have these little hiccups.
Right.
I think so. Just bear with it. I think.
I don't think their plan, or I don't get the impression the plan is to run them all at once. I think it's going to be, off months, that they alternate between the
every other
the
month.
two of them. Yeah, just because I think you run them all at once, I think it's going to be too much for some people. Oh, do I do this one? Do I do that one? Or do I stick to this? And it doesn't become too grindy to where it pushes people away from playing. Logging in. I got all this work ahead of me.
Yeah,
to
we
do
don't
now.
need 3 different PvP plays to.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the note of the siege last month for Larfleeze, for example. Now, this is my thought in terms of logistics, how you're supposed to organize this, and for any of the WE staff that's in charge of that's listening to this, this is just my opinion. So, normally, like the traditional way we get, like, let's say a paywall character, access to a paywall character without buying his pack, is through his PvP week, and there's 2 instances of that. One during that month and one in the following month. So let's say, for example, a typical person, let's say places top 100, for example, or top 1500, would get, let's say, 140 shards or 240 shards, getting up to. So they in 2 months back to back, they probably get a legendary character or even an L2 character. Given the fact that Siege dishes out a ton of shards, right? I would say you could count that as like 2 PvP weeks or more even, right? So then you can kind of forego the next month's instance of it, which is kind of weird how Larfleeze gets another week this month, right? Not that I'm complaining because it'll help me get to L5, but, I think that if they did away with that week and let's say put Constantine back in place of it, that I wouldn't be surprised with that, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was a surprise for people not to see the Larfleeze week.
Yeah.
It was actually more of a surprise that it, didn't go away when Riddler came in. It was the Constantine one that went away.
Right.
I think that's what confused people. They were like, oh, wait, Larfleeze is supposed to be Riddler. That's all. Okay. Oh, wait, they took Constantine instead.
I mean, they put in Riddler instead of Constantine, I think just because of the way the Alliance weeks sort of panned out in terms of scheduling, so that you could have him for his week. But given that, I mean, I'd still rather they switch Larfleeze for Constantine, right? Well, also because I was looking forward to getting an L4 Constantine, and that's going to have to wait now. Oh, well.
Then they probably reschedule it for next month.
I hope so, yeah. That would just make things, give me hope for.
Well, next month is October. Just to be fair, there is the possibility that we get Justice League Dark.
Yeah, but why is Scarecrow's event this month?
Because we're going to need him for next month. That's my guess.
All right. Well, we'll get into that in a bit later. So let's move on. What were we saying? In the arena meta.
All right. Yep, the expectations for the September characters in the meta. Now, I see these two, looking at Riddler and Two-Face's kit as being very beneficial within the meta. And I see Riddler as very beneficial going against the meta with his call assist true sight. But I've got to see how that one works out because it looks as though.
Does he give true sight or does he put a taunt on somebody?
The way it's reading, it looks like he might get true sight after the call assist,
Oh.
which does not help.
Interesting.
So I'm a little worried about that one because it looks good, but it looks too good to be true.
Here's my question about these characters in terms of how they affect the meta. Now, a lot of people are sort of still complaining about Wonder Girl, and within reason, right? So, because both these characters are red,
Joker's tired of hearing people complain about it, I think.
but I mean, let's say for the fact that she's a mystic and both of these characters are physical characters, right? Do they bring something to the table where like they're, let's say, a silver bullet or a good answer to her, or teams based around her?
Well, here's one thing I want to point out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the people are complaining not only about Wonder Girl, but the team that she's on, because she's often enough on a Batgirl team that has a Harley.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Harvey or Two-Face, both of them, his first passive gives either hit chance up or evasion down when it triggers. I think that's a very, telling move that the devs made there with that one.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing to encounter is when you have Harley Quinn, Wonder Girl, and one of these whales has a huge starfire within that composition, and she's just gonna blow away any red in your team. Once she gets her AOE going.
Yeah. I mean, the one
absolutely. There's always stuff to consider.
Like we were talking about Wonder Girl in a previous podcast, and like think about ways to deal with her. The thing that I was looking at that time was one of the ways to deal with her is sort of a debuff strategy, since she's obviously like much better against buff strategies. So the fact that Riddler and Two-Face both bring a lot of debuffs to the table could be a good way to tackle her. So if you're not looking into sort of one-shotting her with typical Deadshot Hired Gun Red Robin setups, then these characters might help you in sort of that grindier, slow game where you're going to sort of take control of the game slowly and not let her get out of hand, right? So
I think World's Greatest Detective is another one of those.
Oh yeah.
Well, we need an answer right now. Here's True Sight to the team.
Yep.
So. I think that was another one of those moves that now's a good time to do it. Let's just go ahead and do it, because it almost felt like this month, being Batman, it almost felt like the dev team was waiting on it, for a while now, because obviously they love Batman and at WB. So
I think it's more or less, it's in the same line as putting heal immunity on Supergirl's basic, right? It's sort of the same thing if you think about it when it came out.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think the timing is all very intentional, is what I'm saying. It definitely feels like they've had this planned out for a while, that they knew that they were going to do this. They were just waiting for the right time.
All right, we mentioned it earlier. We have no Siege this month, and we have a return of Blitz and Showdowns.
Hooray!
I'm actually happy for the Blitzes because, having more access to gems is always good. But the Showdown, I mean, I think the three of us are probably in the minority of like veteran players that have infinite Harley Quinn quite vexing shards.
I actually don't.
You don't? Oh,
I have her at all one. That's all I've got.
You don't play red alerts that much, right?
I don't do red alerts hardly at all.
That's why.
Like I'll do it for days when Swamp Thing shows up. That's about it.
Yeah, I'm picky too with them. Whenever I see Harley in the red alerts, it just like my motivation just drops.
Yeah.
So I'm at the L1 level as well.
Yeah.
And even with the Showdowns here, I'm kind of
I haven't actually touched the Showdown yet.
Yeah.
I probably should, but
the one thing
I got Joker. Sorry? I got damaged goods out of his. Damaged goods out of his world. That was about it.
That was
even that hasn't gotten me to go do it yet. So
that's what I was gonna say. Like the only reason why I'm playing the Showdowns is to get Joker damaged goods shards, and I think like just the first one that fired off this weekend, I got him to L3 already. I'm debating on like if I want to actually sink gems into refreshing energy to actually get him to L4. If there's actually a reason for that, but we'll see. I mean,
he honestly only needs L2.
Yeah, I mean, I probably already overkill him at L3, so.
Well, he's dead last in my roster as the weakest toon I have, so that shows how much I put into him.
There's only two parts of his kit that I like, and it's his passive and his basic.
Fair enough.
The bleeds.
As far as legendary upgrades, those are the only two that I care about.
Yeah, the bleeds.
Other than that, I don't care about the rest of his kit. I use him for his really low cooldown stun and his basic that has a chance to apply an absolute crap ton of bleeds.
Yep.
Yeah, we got our final thoughts on the Avarice Siege. I personally loved it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people were crying that it was too long, and the way I put it in my perspective is you go through a month of hero challenges, to collect a character like Two-Face to L5. Here they're giving you an opportunity to do the same for the typical paywall character, but in a PvP format, and it ran a month long. I personally had no problem with the timing of it. I didn't feel rushed at all. If it was a 1 week or 2 week event, I'd be checking my phone or tablet every 5 seconds. Do I have a refresh? Do I have energy? And I didn't have to stress it. And that it ran along with your typical Wraith arenas and used its own energy was also phenomenal on their part.
Yep.
So it took even less stress away from it. I loved it. I hope it happens again.
So the siege itself, I mean, the fact that the 4 week long siege, I think, was a nice, refreshing sort of take on PvP in general. So the fact that it did foster sort of this strategic element that was sorely lacking in a lot of different modes in the game. So you actually had to really think about what you were going up against, really look into what moves, legendary abilities the other team had, and then think about what your turn order would be like if you picked certain compositions. So it really rewarded you for correct planning, but also really punished you if you didn't plan correctly. So, and the fact that the cost of battling was so high, it really, really made you think really long and hard. I remember, I think M4, who won, congratulations to him, the world's famous position, he was saying it takes him at least 2 minutes just to pick a team, right? So, right, whereas like in...
And that's not surprising, to be honest.
Right, like whereas in regular PvP Wraith Arena, I just pick like 4 characters that I want to battle for the day, and I don't even think anymore, I just battle through everything. So that's it. But, I think it was overall a great success. I hope to see more of it in the future. The one thing that I might criticize on is the, what do you call it? The characters that reward more trophies. Either increase that amount, the roster of those characters that would affect the points, or have it rotate, because it gets stale real fast because you keep running into the same characters all the time.
What? Yeah. On that note, I did like that they did not rotate it this way. Free to play players can walk in there and go, "Hey, I can gear these guys up, level them up, and have complete confidence that doing so is just going to improve my chances," instead of getting a shuffle next week.
So
yeah, I have to agree on that one. I don't like the idea that it shuffles.
Okay.
That just really hinders the free to play and continues to reward the whales, which is fine, to some extent. But I think having the one set roster I think that was a really good call on their part, actually. So
would it be better if that's expanded though, like so that you have more options?
What was it? It was like 12 characters. I think that was fine.
I don't know. I
think that was fine.
Even if it was, I still felt like there was basically the same rotation of characters, right? Like I just felt like it was getting too stale at some point.
Well, it's not WB's fault that everybody wants to use the same team.
That's fair.
Well, I think the big issue was you had Clayface and Wonder Girl in that roster, and that upset a few people because Clayface was.
Well, I think that was intentional. I really do.
No, I agree with you on that. But they had to know it was going to cause some belly aching.
All right, Ogre, how'd you feel about that?
Oh, I'm sure that they were prepared for the belly aching, but yeah, I mean, I thought Siege was absolutely a total blast as far as PvP, because I don't really like PvP usually. During the time the Avarice Siege was running, I actually have tanked my score in Wraith Arena, and I started my week at 900 trophies the last 2 weeks because I just don't want to do it a lot of times. And the Avarice Siege gave me a way to play PvP more thoughtfully, and I felt more rewarded at the end of it than I do with Wraith Arena. Wraith Arena just felt like a cash grab the entire time.
Yep.
Like all the time. Whereas Siege, I didn't spend a dime on gearing up characters to get them ready for it. I didn't spend a dime on the packs of energy. Half the time I didn't even complete my legendary missions, and I still finished where I got over 1 million legendary essence at the end of it. So I mean, just the rewards themselves, this was totally and absolutely worth it in every way possible.
Yep.
Regardless of how many shards I ended up walking out with.
Definitely. Yeah, so the controversial parts of the average siege were like right at the end of the last day, there was a hiccup on the legendary missions, which got everyone in a bit of a tiff, I guess.
And that could just be a programming thing that it was supposed to turn off.
I honestly think that
it turned off a little early.
Right. I think it was more of like they accidentally programmed the switch to switch off early, or they switched. They have basically, if people notice, there was 2 different instances of the legendary missions that rewarded the Avarice energy and rewarded certain things that related to the Avarice siege. And I believe that they wanted them not to coincide so that they had one on and one off as it was going along. So basically they turned one off what they shouldn't have, and they didn't actually turn the other one back on. So that's what I think what happened. But that's just, speculation. But what they did to sort of compensate for that later in that day is they sent out a mail to everyone with 15 Avarice energy as compensation for that, which is actually generous, because thinking about if you did all the legendary missions that would reward energy, you would only get 13, not 15. So they actually gave you 2 more than normal. However, there was also the aspect of you lost out on the Agent Orange mission, which rewarded one shard of life leaves. Yeah, that probably isn't going to make or break most of your goals, but if it did, that could be a big thing. But I doubt it really. But then the other big controversy was behind the mail. A lot of people were waiting to sort of sandbag that 15 energy right until the last minute of Siege to see where they could actually end up, and the mail just sort of disappeared. Apparently it was time sensitive, and there was no notice in that you should have claimed it before this time. And a lot of people were upset about that. So
right,
you're not going to get me to feel sorry on that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm with you on that. Every time I get a newsletter from the game, after I read it, this message will self-destruct. So,
Next time, gadget.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. As soon as I saw that, I picked it up and used it right away, and I already had 3 energy in the bank, and it just popped up to 18. So, it went into overflow. I'm not sure why people waited on it.
It's the same thing people do when they're trying to make the last minute dash for top 1500, top 100 in Wraith Arena. Yeah. And to be fair, that's a week-long event. If you want to wait till the last second to do that, that's fine. I get it. But this is Siege. It was a month long. You had 28 days to do this. Do you really think those 3 battles made that much of a difference?
The other thing to remember is that the energy is finite. You can't actually buy more packs other than the one pack.
Yeah, and that's,
So that, because the reason why people sandbag things in the PvP Wraith Arena is because people can buy PvP energy refreshes, pseudo unlimitedly. So that does play into it, right? The reason why you want to wait till the last minute, but it doesn't actually make sense.
You got that.
It wouldn't make sense.
You got that around. You got it around. Maybe it was like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock my time, and you had like maybe 4 or 5 hours left to it. You're really not going to drop down in rank or get beaten down that much to revenge. You just use it. Yeah. It's ending.
Right. But I mean,
to be fair, I slept through the whole thing. I didn't get the mail ever because I was asleep. So whatever.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, this is my logic behind it in terms of numbers, right? Because it's a finite amount of energy and the amount of points you can get based on that finite amount of energy and battles you can do. Let's say, for example, you did 3 battles with that 15 energy and you came out with 20 points each time. So having 60 points, right when you got that mail, or having 60 points right before the end of the siege, doesn't really matter, right? So you're either going to get that 60 points now or later, right? That's not going to change anything.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point, is a couple of hours doesn't mean anything in a month-long event.
Right.
Exactly.
That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
You weren't going to move that much in rank or anything at all. You know, you just might cement your position. But you know, getting into the legendary mission Hiccup, you know, I was actually kind of prepared for that.
Oh, really?
Just how this, just for how this thing started the first day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you didn't have those missions to begin with. Siege started.
Oh, right.
People
Right.
People,
There was that.
Yeah, people did their missions. They're like, hey, where's my Larfleeze fragment? Yeah, people were bugging about that on the community center.
Mm-hmm.
So, I got right in there, went into the community center, and I was fully prepared and expecting it.
I mean, at the same time, the siege also
sounds messed up, but yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the siege also ended on a long weekend too, during Labor Day weekend, right? So good on them.
For those of us in America, it did end up on a long weekend.
Right. But still, good on them that they actually had someone to react in time to actually send out that mail. So I'm actually impressed that they actually had that. I was ready to have nothing until the reset.
I'm you know, it makes me wonder if they had that prepackaged, ready to go, and somebody just had to hit a button.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Stanner logged in and everything on that day too, you know, and you know, she busted her butt for this game and for the people.
Yeah, I don't think people appreciate what she actually does.
Yeah,
not at all.
So, getting to the sort of the dark areas of the siege, which is sort of Joker, you had kind of a role to play here. You want to let us in on the controversy there at the end?
It's got a beginning to it as well.
All right. Sure.
As soon as Siege started, my alliance in Convoluted, they do a thing called spiraling in regular Wraith Arena, where they bounce back revenges just for the alliance points. You know, you use alliance tunes and you whittle down and back and forth. You're all using alliance point tunes in your roster. So I saw that first day in the siege as an exploit, that revenges were something you can constantly do, and using the point tunes, somebody can garnish a lot of points. So Ferrex had obviously immediately started using that, and you know, at the time it was an exploit and it wasn't a cheat. And you know, I spoke to Stanner, and we had that shut down really fast. Good on them for acting fast on it. But his numbers just kept on rising, and his roster didn't make any sense for how he could be making so many points. And it had everybody going crazy. And you know, they had investigations going into looking at what he was doing, and they finally reset him, and you know, you got M4 in there as the world's finest.
Let's just say, I mean, we can't really confirm because we're not WB, but we can say that, you know, they found something with, I guess, enough evidence to say that he was doing something underhanded to easily win matches. So, yeah, it was too shady to sort of, you know, let go, and then they reacted on it, and good on them. They also banned or reset someone else. Well, I don't know what the name is because it was written in Arabic.
There was actually a couple of people, I think.
Yeah.
It was more than just Ferrex. There was several.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was two others that were on the radar, but right before the end of the siege, I noticed that the one dude with the Arabic writing, he was no longer on the top 100 list, but the other person, I'm not going to say their name because let's say they weren't, in the case that they weren't hacking or they weren't doing anything underhanded, I don't want to sort of discriminate, sort of tear them down because they were still there at the end of the siege, right? So maybe WB looked into them
so it's not like we know whether or not the investigation yielded anything.
Yeah, exactly.
We just know you're still there. So, good on you if you did it right. If you didn't, well.
Yeah, that's probably fine. He's an alliance mate. He was all good. His roster he's got G11 characters in there. You know. Okay. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
He checks out fine.
Okay. He checks out fine.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. I mean, that was the end of it then. So, but I guess
we also did figure out finally who our anonymous name changer was.
Oh, it was
right.
Let's see. It was Alexi.
Yeah, it was Alexi. So
Alexi coming out of retirement to sort of to literally make a name for himself.
names.
He's been at that for a while. You guys are just catching on.
Fair enough.
To be fair, we don't really know him like you do. So
yeah. I mean, that was that, I guess. So with that, moving on to Event Horizon then.
Hell is only a word. Reality is much, much worse.
Okay, we're going into Two Faces Hero Challenge in comparison to Atrocitus's last month.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it was probably Atrocitus and Larfleeze, but I just kind of blew through this thing. You know, I blinked and it was done. I'm like, oh, geez, I missed it.
Larfleeze was tough a couple of times, but yeah, it was definitely. I definitely felt like both of the events were harder than previous ones.
The minions definitely hit harder than before.
Yeah. It's now turned into a strategy of take out the minions first and leave the main characters there for last, which is kind of odd, but that's the way it's rolling now.
I will say for anyone who hasn't already started tackling the Two-Face Hero Challenge, or maybe you're in the midst of it, if you already have unlocked and have access to at least a rank 4, rank 5 Larfleeze, and you have him reasonably geared up, he can pretty much like solo most of the nodes in this this event, because
imagine that
PvE is definitely where he shines, and you will see that in spades, because basically every enemy is red in this.
Yeah. To be fair, Larfleeze is like a PvE god tier anyway, so just because of his basic attack and his passive. Yeah. So,
what do you guys think about the White Lantern Sinestro challenge?
I enjoyed it. You know, to me, it was a lot better than the Deathstroke challenge. And not only was there a better reward at the end, but your options were more diverse. You know, amongst the Lantern Corps as a whole group, you had your options of heroes and villains, and I just gear and level villains, so that was beneficial for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had fun playing it. A lot of people were upset that it didn't reset the next day, and with the amount of frags it was offering as reward.
There's no way.
Why would it?
I don't feel sorry if you wanted it to reset. You're just being greedy.
You want an L5 White Lantern Sinestro. Yeah, okay. They're just going to hand that out.
You're just being greedy at that point. Yeah. To be fair, if you completed the entire challenge, you got halfway.
Yeah.
You got 550, to be fair.
For people who are comparing this to the other 6-day challenges, it does, if you finish it once all the way through, it rewards way more shards than if you played the 6-day challenge events all 6 days, like once through. So
true. But here's my counter argument. With the other 6-day challenges, you have to sacrifice other things that you're doing for the energy that you need to complete it daily. Right. With this one, you can complete 1 node, 2 nodes, go to the next day, complete 1 or 2 nodes, go to the next day, complete 1 or 2 nodes.
Exactly.
Like, you don't have to blow all your energy all at once. You're not blowing out your gems.
Yep.
Like, I really like that idea.
Yep.
That it doesn't reset and it's a one-time reward.
Yeah.
So,
other than the sort of comparison to other different events, the one thing that I do like about these events is that they're more story-driven, unlike the other 6-day events, because they're just, you're just battling a wraith. But
this is definitely a lot more story-driven.
And I like that. I like the Lantern story compared to the Titans Go story was, in my opinion, slightly better, but I did like the Deadpool
Titans
reference.
Go was hilarious. I don't know what you're talking about.
I did like the Deadpool reference in Titans Go.
Well, it was in the movie if you got a chance to go see it. So, I mean, it really played off of the movie, so I thought that was hilarious.
But I still like the Lantern story. The Lantern story was pretty good too.
Well, to be fair, the Lantern story felt like a conclusion to the story that we already have. It felt like we finally got that conclusion.
But we're still battling.
I'm hoping going forward that they expand that inclusion to villains and heroes, not just for me, but for other free-to-play out there that don't quite have all the heroes up to par. They might have one or two. They might have one or two villains up to par for it, and it just...
you referring to this upcoming
nice segue.
Scarecrow event that only has bat heroes?
And villains?
Or even the Titans
No,
event.
you can't use the villains. You can only use the heroes.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it's just the Robins, Batgirl, and the Batman.
I guess this is basically they're trying to stay on theme with the story then, I guess, right? So it's the Batman beating the bad guys up.
Well, they actually just added the Dark Knight into that list of eligibles. He wasn't originally.
TDK was not originally on that list.
Yeah.
So interesting to see him on there because he's an energy, so it'll be interesting to be able to use him.
They should do an opposite story then. They should do like villains fighting the Justice League or something.
Well, that's kind of what we're hoping, that'll happen eventually. Because obviously, depending on the reward is what the story is going to be.
Yeah.
Is what it's looking like.
Give me a rework on Superman and make it a Justice League month.
He just had a rework, and then a second rework.
I'm sorry, not a rework. A new Superman, rather. Give me a new Superman.
Yeah, well,
How about just a reward of Superman? He doesn't need a rework or anything.
Just think about how harsh that would be to players, though, because then, you're going in against Superman. He's the big reward, and your options will probably be only Superman villains. And
Lex says FTW. And to be fair, you could also throw TDK onto that list too.
Fair enough.
Possibly.
If they put in the bleed line, then that'll be fine.
You get your Bizarro in there.
Yeah.
I honestly want to see Bizarro Richards at some point. I could use some more Bizarro. Yeah. He does need a rework.
Red Alerts.
He does need a rework.
Here's a good story-driven event for you. If they did a Bizarro event, you could have basically villains like the Injustice League trying to recruit Bizarro because Bizarro doesn't know if he's good or bad. He's basically sort of like teetering the line, and Lex is trying to recruit him onto the Injustice League. That'd be cool.
Do like a choose your side storyline.
Could be. That'd be cool.
There you go.
Anyways. Okay.
I mean, I really like the direction that they're going with these events. I like that they removed the L5 gating. That was absolutely the best thing they could have done. They made the event harder, and that felt really good too. So you couldn't just walk in with Gear 9 team. If you did, you got slaughtered. I'll promise you that.
I walked in with a Gear 10 team and got slaughtered.
I walked in with 2 Gear 11s and got slaughtered.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, like, my Atrocitus went down in 3 hits. Just ting, ting, ting. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, Larfleeze is no joke.
Yeah, Larfleeze is no joke, so...
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the White Lantern Sinestro event.
Yeah.
He got taken out in round 1 by the minions.
Yeah. Mine was getting this. Mine was getting the same deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. But no, I mean, I really like the difficulty level.
Right.
I like the additional storyline. I really feel like these events have potential. If they continue to do them, that these will eventually be basically sub-chapters of storyline, because that's what they feel like. So,
well, I'm wondering if any of them are going to recycle throughout time. Like 2-3 months down the road, White Lantern Sinestro challenge comes up again.
That would be interesting if they do away with the regular 60 challenges and just do 2 of these, one every, that rotates every few months, comes back in, and then a new one. I think that would definitely be cool.
All right, so I guess with that we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up and go into the shop talk. With shop talk, let's see here. So there weren't too many bug fixes this time with the update. There was something plaguing Android users with out of sync errors. So it seems like that was taken care of, and there was some weird maybe graphical issue or some issue where Penguin's Henshi's Revenge was being performed more than once. So that
triggered twice. Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, so that was taken care of real quick. Otherwise, in terms of packs for the shop, there was something I noticed at the end of August, and then also I think it was the end of June where it came up. They released a a Batgirl gem pack at the end of August, and this was the second time around where they released a pack that wasn't really in line with the expected characters for that month, being the new characters or the rework characters. So it's sort of like an extra pack, a fifth pack, if you will, right?
Right.
And
well, it's whenever they have a fifth week. I mean,
right, exactly. So I think that, this is something to expect going forward, is what I'm trying to say, in terms of the patterns, right? So her pack in this case, especially, and also in June, they also did it with Power Girl. These packs fall into the same category as the reworked characters pack, I believe, where they're $50 instead of $100. Sorry, $25? $25 instead of $100. They offer obviously less shards and less gems, but it's sort of
like 6,000 gems and 60 shards,
something like that. But it's the same as the rework characters packs for that month, in terms of output. And from what I've seen, there are characters that are in demand, they're being used a lot in PvP, and are rare and unaccessible characters otherwise. So for those of you newer players who don't already have these characters, or are looking for ways to access characters that are being used, maybe there's something to expect. Obviously not for September, but maybe October has 5 weeks, I think. So maybe something to think about there. Then there was this week's pack, which was the Two-Face gem pack. And the one thing I'll say right off the bat is the display for this was awesome. The way the
hands down, the display, the concept was absolutely
really
brilliant.
Yeah,
it was absolutely brilliant.
Now,
unfortunately,
now getting into the actual packs. So the pack was split into $50, 2 packs of $50, rather than 1 pack of $100 that would be the typical gem pack for this type of character. And they split the pack into 2, being 1 pack with gems and 1 pack with legendary essence, both packs offering shards. Now, if you compare this to the typical $100 pack, it's 15,000 gems and 300 shards if you bought 2 packs of the gems, let's say for $100, right? This means if you compare it to the $100 pack, you're getting 10,000 less gems, but you're getting 50 more additional shards on top of that. So do 50 shards equal 10,000 gems? No, because you can get 100 shards for 8,000 gems. So this does not add up. Whoever is in charge of the marketing there really needs to be, like
double check your math, please.
Right, it's not even math, it's arithmetic. This is just arithmetic.
Calm down, DP. Calm down. So we know what upsets you. It's okay. Goose Rob.
I can imagine.
It was thought up on Labor Day, and they had a stand in that day.
I get it that they want to split it up to make it look cool, but they could have done this. They could have done this better. They could have done it like 1250 gems for $50, so that it would add up to 250 or to 25,000 gems.
Well, right? I think even just the 12,000 that you would get is a little bit over. But I think 7,500 is definitely way too low. Yeah, I think 10,000 with 300 shards would have been.
Yeah.
Or 10,000 with 150 shards would have been acceptable.
Yeah.
I think.
Right. But I mean, granted that this character is sort of the freebie character for the month, not many people are going to buy the pack, so it's probably not going to affect a lot of people. But then there are people like Hate Mail, for example, who will create content a lot earlier and rely on these packs to sort of get going quickly, right? You're going to buy them based on value, especially, he goes out of his way to also get iTunes cards on the cheap so that he can make sure that he's not spending too much. You're not going to buy a $100 pack if it's outputting this low. The reason why you buy these packs is because they give you a better return over it. Like, if this is not giving you any decent amount of return, there's no reason to buy this. He has to now wait till the middle of the month when the Riddler pack comes out, right? So, because I'm assuming he doesn't need...
To be fair, he said this month he was going to be taking it a little bit slower anyway, but...
Sure, but
that's because he got a dog.
Sure, but I mean, let's say that you were going to buy gems this month and you needed to think about, when you want to plant it, and let's say you were getting ready, the beginning of the month to get ready for it, you're going to buy the Two-Face pack, but no, you get this instead, now you have to wait for Riddler's pack. It sort of throws things like really out the window for you. So it's I can.
To be fair, if you were waiting on one of the packs, you were probably waiting on the Riddler one anyway.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I mean, again, this is all just semantics at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, anyways,
it's just to the devs, if you're listening, we like the concept. It was great. Unfortunately, execution of the value of them was not quite where we were expecting.
I'm going to correct you. Not to the devs, to the marketers.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
My
definitely.
bad.
Yeah. To the marketers.
But
Go back to marketing school.
yeah,
Don't be that harsh. Come on.
I work in this business, so.
Yeah, fair enough.
the visual concept I liked. It was reminiscent of when Ares and Wonder Woman came out. I don't know if you guys remember the packs or that. When they put
Yeah,
them on
Wonder
sale.
Woman is what started the $100 25,000 gems, 250 shards packs, right?
Yeah, I think so. But when you put those two packs together, it's them facing off amongst each other with the gold at their feet.
Yep.
It's pretty cool looking.
So, anyways, that was the gist of the shop. Nothing too out of the ordinary, thankfully. So, I guess with that, we'll move on to...
Nothing extraordinary either, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll move on to the community watchtower.
Wait, you mean we're gonna take the watchtower out of orbit and drop it right on top of their little science project?
So the first part of the community watchtower, before we get into some of the news, DC related news for this month, because we have Joker on the show, let's get to know Joker. So sort of what they've done in We Are Our Legends. We'll sort of go over that again a little bit for those of you guys who haven't had a chance to hear that. But Joker, tell us about your history with comics, DC, and how you got started with DCL, I guess.
My history with comics started out at a really young age. I guess maybe like 4 or 5. My uncle had a pretty extensive collection. I was the curious kid looking at all the flashy covers, and he started letting me read them, and I got hooked in right away.
Cool.
Wasn't quite reading them yet. I was looking at the pictures, and over time I started reading them, and I just got even more and more into them. In my 20s, I had a comic book shop with my friend in New Hampshire.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely obsessed with Batman Joker stories. I have every single Joker issue before the new 52, from his first appearance to...
Oh, wow. That's a pretty extensive collection.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, yeah.
Yeah.
And, DC Legends, as soon as I saw the app, it was actually something I was searching for, DC games. And, as soon as I saw one that was good quality, I got hooked into it. And this game is really good. Nearly 2 years now.
You're coming up on 2 years very soon.
Aside from the butthurt about JokerCPoC's rework, is there anything in game that you're happy with and things that you aren't happy with?
Starting out, I was really happy seeing Chemo. I was like, oh, here's an obscure character. And it gave me hope in the future that this game is going to reach down deep into those little pockets of who's that guy?
Yeah.
And throw them in here and just throw off some of the players and introduce them to something new.
It's not just going to be like the Justice League and Injustice League, right?
Yeah. But unfortunately, they haven't touched on that. Every month I'm hoping to see somebody a little on the obscure side, and nobody's reached the depths of Chemo.
So in terms of obscure characters, I mean, aside from Chemo, is there any characters you want to see included in the game coming up?
A lot of them I would name off right now off the top of my head would be Batman ones, and I don't want to go there because got too much of the bat in here.
You get so much backlash from
Gentleman
the
Ghost, Crazy Quilt, King Tut.
Antoine Arcane I would love to see. That's Swamp Thing's major villain. And
I'd like to see Felix Faust.
Felix would be cool. You could definitely see him going in along the lines of the current Justice League Dark storylines.
Yeah, definitely.
But Arcane's interesting in that Swamp Thing and Poison Ivy as well. They're in touch with the Green, and Antoine Arcane and Enchantress even they're in touch with the Rot, and it's two different forces of nature in the comics, epitomized between these 4 characters. And I'd like to see that touched on. Just get a little bit.
That would be really cool. We are missing basically the one character at this point.
Exactly, and it would really flesh it out, and you could do a cool little hero challenge just for him with those 3 other characters to obtain him having really, really intense boosts. All
right. Well, I mean, moving things along. I guess my next question for you is then, being a mod on the community center, what does that mean to you, and how did you get started in all that?
I got started in that because I was just a another person on the community center, kibitzing and getting to know everybody there. And you had this one guy that was basically spamming the boards, and I came to find out that he had multiple accounts, and he basically hacked the community center to rise up in the influence boards. And I'd never thought of anything so absurd, but I found him out and confronted him on there, and he used all of his accounts to report mine and get me blocked off. I ended up going through Macho Man, through Discord, and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. You got to let the admins know about this. You got to reach out to them or something." And eventually got a hold of Jensen at the time, and she helped us get rid of this guy, gave us mod powers, and get started out that way.
Now that you've been a mod for the community center for a while now, I mean, what does that mean to you in terms of, I guess, a pseudo job?
I take on a lot of the community issues or responsibilities that upsets a lot of my other fellow mods. Any concern that somebody has out there, whether it's when a girl needs a nerfing or whatnot, I truly take it seriously, and I bring it up to Stanner and everybody else as a major concern. And I may not necessarily agree with it, but I feel it's my place to represent them and do my best for them to get them to be heard. And I take it pretty seriously, aside from the joking. When I'm not dealing
I'm not even going to go there.
when I'm not dealing with the concerns, I like to try to entertain them, throughout silly things out there, contests or games, puzzles, little bits of silly, trivial knowledge that I have from comic books. It's a great place in there. And
now, one thing I know you do fairly regularly is you do a poll for who people want to see in the game, right?
Yeah. That was started out mainly. I saw all these other people cashing in on that idea for influence, and I thought it was worthwhile to do it and tally up everyone's polls to really see what people want instead of using it as a influence grab. And having mod connections to an admin, I toss those results to Stanner every month, and I don't know if it's going to influence anything or influence potentials down the road that aren't even touched upon, but I hope it does. I'd like the people to be heard.
I mean, it's a good to know that the people have a voice, so to speak, and that voice is being heard. All right, so that was our brief interview with Joker. Moving on to, I guess, some recent DC news. We haven't had a little bit of this for a while, mainly do with TV shows. So there is one concerning the Arrowverse and one concerning the DC Universe streaming service that is coming up shortly. But let's start with the Arrowverse. In the Arrowverse, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Batwoman being casted as Ruby Rose being casted as Batwoman. And now the big controversy around this was that when her casting was announced, a lot of people were at the beginning arguing the fact that she may not have the acting chops to play Batwoman, and she was picked because she was just some hot white girl. And then there was other members of the community who were of the LGBT community saying that she's not gay enough to play a lesbian role because, as many of you may know from the comics and from the animated series, Batwoman is very openly gay. And then others are now on this is like the more ridiculous part that I'm thinking of, but no offense to anyone who thinks this may or may not be ridiculous. But others are now saying that she's not Jewish enough to play the role because because Batwoman is also Jewish. Okay, so those are the three factors. All right,
people want to be stupid about everything.
Right, she's not a good enough actress. She's not a good enough actress. She's not lesbian enough, and she's not Jewish enough. And then right, so basically the backlash around all of this came about with the network's announcement when they were considering candidates, and then because the way the network, I guess CW, was saying that they want to find an actor or actress to best represent these new characters, and they put best represent under quotation marks, so meaning they're actually looking deeply into the characters. At least is what most people expect, and they would pick someone that would fit that. Now, I personally think that a person who is, I wouldn't say very openly gay, but she definitely is not. I guess she's definitely included in the LGBT community in a sense, because she has said to herself that while she's not straight, she doesn't identify as a lesbian. That's all she was saying, right? People saying, well, if you don't identify as a lesbian, you can't be Batwoman, is basically what they were saying. At the same time, she's not obviously Orthodox Jewish enough to be Batwoman, is what other people are saying too. And when was the last time you saw her in a Hollywood movie? She's not a good enough actress to be Batwoman. But this is the CW Arrowverse. I don't get really...
Because Stephen Amell was so well known.
Let's put it this way. I guess the only way to appease everyone is basically she needs to be a super open lesbian that is Orthodox Jewish, which is in and of itself a paradox.
I say you can't do that.
And she needs to be slinging. She needs to be slinging dreidels out of her utility belt for them to be really accepting of her as a character. I don't really.
Dreidel! I made you out of C4.
Well, basically, what they're asking for is Janine Garofalo.
That would be awesome. Don't even go there.
Yeah, I mean, and Batwoman needs to be a redhead too, right? Is that if I'm remembering that correctly? Is that correct?
Yeah, in the comics, she's a redhead.
How many redhead characters do you know? Like Jewish.
Well, her red hair doesn't even look natural in the comics. It's so bright, reddish orange.
It's kind of magenta.
Yeah. But
no.
In all seriousness, I mean, did anybody complain about Tom Hanks in Philadelphia not being gay enough for the damn part?
Yeah. Just, I don't know.
Who cares? As long as she can play it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, that, but it's based off a comic book. Comic books grip people visually first. They don't so much care about the character.
Like, honestly, you're talking about Ruby Rose and not being able to act, and it's like, oh my God, shut up. Who cares?
Yeah.
Give her a chance. Let her play the role for 5 seconds.
Exactly.
All I could say is it could be worse. It could be Jared Leto in there.
No.
You know what? He gets a lot of crap.
And he's going to get more.
Well, I understand. I'm just saying, I don't think it was actually him so much as it was the story and the writing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They wanted to...
But, I mean, that's... he needed here nor there, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess what it really comes down to, as long as the Arrowverse writes Batwoman well, and Ruby Rose plays it well, everybody will be happy.
Exactly.
Well, they even my kid was watching the Arrowverse and or Green Arrow, and I never really got quite into it, but I was watching some of the episodes with him, and I saw Black Canary making out with one of Al Ghul's daughters. I'm like, when the heck did she go that way?
Yeah. That was
yeah.
You're talking about White Canary, right? The Sarah Lance.
Sarah Lance, not Laurel.
Yeah, Sarah Lance is a sort of like openly, I guess, lesbian in that aspect. Actually, she's bi, I think. She's bi.
In the Arrow universe, like she's into Talia and
Constantine.
Arrow, and that's like it.
And Constantine.
Was she into Constantine too?
Yeah, this might be.
I haven't seen any of the new stuff, so I don't know.
So
Constantine, that's accurate. He's bi in the comics,
Yeah.
But I never knew Talia al Ghul to be bi. She was always into Batman.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think part of her was that if she couldn't have Batman, she didn't want another man because no man ever measured up.
That was it.
Right.
That
so.
Exactly it.
So. My point or argument going is, what happens if they decide, okay, well, we switch these characters around a bit. Maybe we'll switch up Batwoman up a little bit, and instead of being lesbian or bi, she's just going to be completely straight. How's that going to hit?
That would be.
Or here's a better idea: let's just not talk about her sexuality at all.
Yeah. But it's out there right now. The main thing that I was going to say about
it'll happen. People are going to get mad at it either way.
The main thing I was going to say about Ruby Rose, with all this negativity and all this controversy out there, is that all of that, this is before like she really got into her role, before she really got like started with the actual work. She had to quit Twitter as a result of this, and she basically had to, you know, sort of fall off the radar, and it's just sad for her. You know, this is an up and coming artist, and she's trying to get into her art. She's trying to perfect her art. Let her have a chance to do it. You know, so that's the
Well, that's the problem. Is nobody wants to give anybody a chance nowadays.
Yeah.
As much as I joke around Jared Leto, I would never troll him on Twitter or anything like that. It's ridiculous.
Like, I mean, you're someone who's working and you're given a job to do, and you do that job. So, I mean, what else can people really expect of you, right? The rest of it's out of your control at that point, right? So, I mean, unless you're sort of that creative type, like, let's say, you know, Christian Bale, who was playing Batman, like, way back when, and he would have fits about the script, and he would like basically refuse to work unless they reworked the script to the way he liked it. But I don't think these people who are up and coming in the world are going to be like, hey, you know what? I think this is stupid. I don't think that Joker should be a mob boss, right? You know, I don't think they're going to be arguing that fact.
Joker is a mob boss.
Well, I mean, you know,
No. I just don't think
that one.
like,
I don't think Joker should be Slim Shady. That's all.
And to be fair, again, I think it was some of the writing and the situations that they put him in. I honestly thought his portrayal wasn't that bad in the scenes that were actually good. And he actually does do a good Joker. Like, I liked the idea of him putting his hand over his face for that smile. That was creepy as hell.
Back onto the topic of Batman, though. Let's just hope that in the Arrowverse, the writers will do good by Batwoman, and then Ruby Rose will sort of like do the character justice. Let's just hope all good things for that.
Right, and that's we've gotten sidetracked so many times here, but yeah, that's all we're saying.
All right.
I wish her luck, and I hope she proves them wrong.
All right. So on the topic of the TV shows, Joker actually brought this up for us. I actually didn't know about this until earlier this week, that the DC Universe new streaming service will also have announced they started filming for Doom Patrol, and they've actually released some set photos for that. So if you guys want to check that out online, there are a couple of photos out there of a few of the characters. But Joker, since you were the one who brought this up to me, do you want to let people in on that show?
For those of you who do not know who Doom Patrol are, they are early DC Comics group from the 60s, around the same time as the X-Men, and kind of a counterpart to Marvel's X-Men. Their main leader, Niles Calder, is wheelchair-ridden, and the rest of the group are a different mix of powers that are all pretty unique and very unique to their own. You don't really see them in any other comic. You have a Negative Man who made up of negative energies, and it's wrapped up kind of like a mummy, and anything he touches is going to be eradicated. And he's kind of cursed, obviously, with that power, because he's no longer really able to have any physical contact with anybody. Robot Man, who was a stunt car driver, got into an accident, had his brain placed into a robot body, and the rest is kind of obvious there. But it's going to be an interesting show to see. I'm curious to see where they take the story, because it gets very, very freaky. It was picked up by some Vertigo writers in the late 80s, early 90s, and they really went off the wall with it.
So I was delving a little bit deeper into the casting and the characters for this series. So the one thing that I thought was really interesting was one of the main characters that will sort of introduce the Doom Patrol, and the Doom Patrol becomes sort of a spin-off of another series that we mentioned on another podcast, being Titans, right? So Doom Patrol is referenced into an episode of Titans, maybe earlier on in the series, so that the Doom Patrol could sort of start a little bit after Titans, and they're both being released at the DC Universe roughly at the same time. Now, the character that references the Doom Patrol that sort of segues into that series is Cyborg. So that means that Titans will also have Cyborg, which they didn't show in the trailer that was aired a while ago, right? So that's also something to pick up on. So Cyborg will be in both shows, from what I understand.
Wait, it's Cyborg, not Beast Boy?
Cyborg. It's Cyborg that references Doom Patrol, according to what I've been reading online. So Cyborg is they basically.
I've always been under the impression that Beast Boy originally was in the Doom Patrol,
Could be.
left them and joined the Titans.
That would make sense. But from what I was reading, is that there was a mission that the Titans needed help on, and they called in the Doom Patrol. Well, Cyborg calls in the Doom Patrol, and he's sort of their liaison. They go in between the Titans and the Doom Patrol. So,
well, if you look at Beast Boy, his costume is still Doom Patrol's colors.
There you go. So maybe Beast Boy will make appearances in the Doom Patrol show too, then, which makes sense.
Possibly. They might throw in too why he left, and I that's too much of a spoiler. I can't get into it, but
well, I mean, they did that in the Titans cartoon show back in the day too. So
yeah,
I missed that.
Now the other thing that
there was just like an episode where the Doom Patrol showed up, asked Beast Boy to help them. The Titans all help him, and they asked Beast Boy to rejoin them, and Beast Boy rejects them and says, "No, I'm a Titan."
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, regardless, I mean, I think the fact that Cyborg being included now is really interesting for both series, because they've announced also who they've casted for Cyborg. I actually don't know who the actor is, so I can't really say. But
why is it not Ray Fisher?
Yeah, well, it can't be a Hollywood actor. They don't have the budget for that. So, but on that,
they had Samuel Jackson appear for 5 seconds in the freaking Marvel or Agents of Shield thing.
Well, if they could pay him for 5 seconds, okay, maybe. But now,
fair enough.
On the note of Hollywood actors, this is sort of the segue that I was getting into. They actually announced the casting for Robotman's voice is Brendan Fraser. So, am I one of the am I one of the only people that are happy that is happy to see the Brendan Fraser's getting work again? Because he's really good. That
actually really fits. That's really awesome.
Makes sense, right? It makes sense. But I actually really liked Brendan Fraser as a character, as an actor. Not only in the Mummy series, but in a lot of his early movies. He's a good guy. He just got caught up. Well, if you know anything about him, his personal life on social media and stuff, he's caught up in a lot of crap. Now he's finally getting work again, and hopefully that, maybe this will take off, and maybe it'll help him jumpstart his career. Well, restart his career. Brendan Fraser? Yeah, I'll look forward to that. So, all right. Otherwise,
sadly.
He's a very deep character to play, so he's probably going to be the focus point of the show for viewers. Your heart's going to bleed for the character.
Oh, yeah. All right. So
now, something else I do want to point out, just as a reference to Doom Patrol. If you ever watched Rick and Morty, the season 3 episode where they have the Dominators, that's a direct reference to Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Mala and the Brain show up in the show as well.
Oh yeah, the Brain, that would be cool.
Brain would be cool. I really would like to see Brain. He would be a lot of fun.
I wonder if they're going to give him the French accent though, because he has to.
Oh, they have to. They have to.
Otherwise, I mean, do you guys have any other expectations for Doom Patrol other than potential cameos?
I'm hoping they get as dark and twisted as it got in the books.
Okay.
Well, based on what we've heard about Titans so far, I mean, it sounds like they will be a little bit darker.
Yeah.
So hopefully that holds true.
And given the fact that
Titans give me this feel that it's running away from the books in their, it's like, Grayson saying the things he said about Batman in the trailer. It just really threw me.
Well,
like,
I will say one thing about how, like, Robin, Dick Grayson saying, F Batman, like throwing F-bombs all over the place. That gives me it gives me the idea that this is probably going to at least be PG-13, maybe sort of mature rating, right? So if Doom Patrol follows in line with Titans in terms of that sort of gritty atmosphere, that sort of writing style for the DC Universe series, I think that they could take it to a level where it'll be very serious. It'll be very interesting to watch for us mature viewers. So,
right,
I have high expectations there.
My expectations are pretty high with Doom Patrol just off of those set photos, because when I look at the photos for Teen Titans and I compare them to comic book, it's not matching up too well. I look at Doom Patrol and the little details that you can get if you read the comics, and you look at the costumes and you go, wow, they actually added that. Or when I looked at Negative Man for the first time and I saw the shape of the glasses, I knew exactly what era of the comics they were looking to emulate. And that just got me thrilled, going, oh, they might actually get into that part of the comics for the show. And TMI.
With that, we'll wrap up the Community Watchtower, and we'll give a shout out to our patrons again, as we do every episode. So at the Do-Gooder tier, at $5, we have Parsnip Paradigms and James B hanging out. At $10, we have Hate Mail being a superstar. And to our other patrons, William I, Backfire COH, and Vitus1, you guys are rock stars. So again, for those of you guys who didn't hear the beginning of the show or skipped over that part, we're still about $7 short of our $30 goal. So if you guys are interested in supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/theoddsmen, you can become a patron of at least $1 or more to be eligible for our monthly Oddsmen giveaway at the end of each month. So if you can help us push towards that $30 goal, that'd be great. So we're almost there. Just a little bit more. That's all. So, final words, Ogre.
Thanks for listening, guys. And if there's anything in the future you'd like us to talk about, anything you'd like us to discuss, whether it be team comps for characters as they come out or whatever, just let us know and we'll try to work that into the show. Again, thanks for listening. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you next time.
All right, Joker, any last words?
Yeah, it was a pleasure being on here with you guys. I really enjoyed it. Hope to do it again sometime soon.
Awesome. All right, it was great.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it was great having you on. And I guess with that, we'll wrap things up there. See you guys.
And now for the winner's circle. For Wraith PvP, our world's finest, for Poison Ivy Shards, was Miller Time for 4,657 points. For the top 35 cutoff, we have 2,742 points, and top 100 was 2,559 points. Top Alliance this week was UJLA and Koa once again for 86,656 points. Top 10 cutoff was at 43,421 points. And top 100 was 22,648. Congratulations to all our winners.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Oddsmen broadcast. Be sure to check out the next episode of We Are Legends coming up next week.